on the Hawkeye Sports Network from Learfield. This is the Fight for Iowa podcast, brought to you by Athletico Physical Therapy, proud partner of the Iowa Hawkeyes and the Big Ten Conference. Iowa's corn farmers of the Iowa Corn Growers Association and Iowa Corn Promotion Board. You may think Iowa grows corn, but the truth is corn grows Iowa. Shields, we're right there with you in Des Moines, Sioux City, Iowa City, and Cedar Falls. University of Iowa Healthcare. Changing medicine, changing lives. This is the Fight for Iowa podcast. Here's the voice of the Hawkeyes, Gary Dolphin.
Iowa football has concluded spring practice with more questions on offense than defense headed into the summer break. Quarterback Deacon Hill jumped into the transfer portal following the final scrimmage. The coaching staff will scour that same portal, looking for his replacement, as projected number one Cade McNamara continues to recover from knee surgery that cost him 2/3 of last season. Kirk Ferentz, in his 26th year as head coach, will visit about some of the immediate concerns and what he sees long-term as the new-look Big Ten expands to 18 teams this fall. That's all ahead on this week's Fight for Iowa podcast, brought to you by Shields, Athletico, UIHC, and Iowa Corn.
More of the Fight for Iowa podcast after this.
When it comes to your health, you need the full picture. That means the right diagnosis and the right treatment right from the start. I'm Aaron Bose, pediatric neurologist with University of Iowa Healthcare. Here, we're working together every day to advance medicine so you can get the best care. With more research, more clinical trials, and more treatment options than anywhere else in the state, the University of Iowa Healthcare is changing medicine and changing lives. Learn more at uihc.org.
Tickets are on sale now for the Hy-Vee IndyCar Race Weekend Concert Series. Saturday, July 13th, see Luke Combs and Eric Church. And Sunday, July 14th, see Post Malone and Kelsey Ballerini live in concert. One ticket per day gets you into a race and two concerts. Tickets on sale now at HyVeeIndyCarWeekend.com.
Are aches, pains, or injuries keeping you on the sidelines? At Athletico, our movement experts are here to help you turn your setbacks into comebacks and create a personalized game plan for your recovery. With no prescription or referral needed, Athletico Physical Therapy is where your comeback story begins. Get started today by scheduling a free assessment at athletico.com. Proud partner of the Iowa Hawkeyes.
To anyone passing through our state, fields and fields of corn might be what they see. But the people who call Iowa home know it's so much more. Corn is ethanol, a homegrown, renewable fuel. Corn is delicious pork, beef, poultry, and dairy. Corn is in 4,000 products we rely on every day. So yeah, our highway views are full of corn, and we're proud of it. Because corn grows Iowa. Show your support for Iowa corn farmers at iowacorn.org/fan of corn.
Now back to the Fight for Iowa podcast. Here's the voice of the Hawkeyes, Gary Dolphin.
Spring training is over for Iowa football. The Hawkeyes will reassemble officially in June when summer school begins and the newcomers join the existing roster. Coach Kirk Ferentz labels this period the most enjoyable on the calendar. It's strictly a teaching period, moving the team ahead fundamentally.
Then the flip side is, we got a lot to work on, a lot to do, and two different stories, basically. You got a very veteran defense with a system that's been in place for the most part during all 25 years, and then offensively we're shifting gears and system-wise, and then also a lot more younger players involved. So, it's an interesting mix, and every year is a different challenge, different adventure, if you will, but I like the attitude of the team. I thought they did a good job in the winter program, and I think there's only been one day to the spring that was a little bit underwhelming, but otherwise the guys have showed up and worked hard, and I think we're making progress, and hardly game ready, but we're moving in the right direction.
You talked to Tim a lot in the interview process. You've seen his work from afar. Now you've had 14, 15 practices to work with him and philosophize in a meeting room. Your opinion?
Yeah, we're really impressed with Tim. I've admired his work from afar previously, well before this past year. But everything about him when we went through the process was impressive. Now we've worked together for a couple months plus, and the entire staff's worked with Tim. He's a great guy. He's a high-energy guy with, I think, great ideas, certainly has a good vision of what he wants to do. And I've been impressed with how he's been adaptable to, where we're at and what we are. And that's a big part of coaching, is trying to figure out, what your players can do and can't do, and then what we'll do moving forward. So, we've tried to get a lot of exposure in. I think he's, hasn't covered every base, but pretty close to it. So it's been really a lot of information for everybody. And, as we move into the August period here later on, we'll have a better grip, I think, of what our team is and what's important, what isn't important. But, no, it's been a lot of fun that way, and he's been great to work with, and I think the players have really responded well to him.
How about John Budmeyer, his first year at wide receiver coach? Is he working well with Tim, in your opinion, and therefore with the offense? Yeah,
I wouldn't call John a grizzled vet, but he's coach. He's a veteran coach, and he's been doing it for a while. And I really think the fact that he was a quarterback coach and then became an offensive coordinator, and actually worked pretty extensively with the receivers at Colorado State as well as the quarterbacks. And I go back to my time here in the 80s. Bill Snyder was our quarterback and receiver coach. He did both. So, I think it makes perfect sense. The quarterback coach and quarterbacks tend to know what receivers do and all those types of things. So I think it's working out really well. John's a great guy. I was impressed with him the last couple of years, and I think he's stepped in and done a really nice job, and really pleased with how the staff's working together, and more specifically on the offensive side, because that's where we're newest. But I think the entire staff's really meshed well.
We've watched Cade McNamara in the huddle and standing right off of Tim Lester's shoulder blade, and he's involved, I know, in the meetings, but he hasn't played. He's throwing. He's running around. What are your thoughts about Cade when he gets back here in June? That offense will look even more solid.
Yeah, to have a veteran player, someone who's played, and Deacon's played now too, but Cade played at a really high level his last year at Michigan, and no expectation other than that when he gets back. And the thing I would say about that, we really haven't seen him at full speed. I guess the Michigan State game was about as close as he came, and then unfortunately had the knee deal. But, the quad injury he had last August really impeded what he can do. So there's no reason to think he won't be perfectly, 100% healthy here when we get going in June, and more importantly in August when we start practice. So excited to get him back, and it's always good to get a veteran guy back, a veteran leader who is respected. And biggest thing for him is just, getting back in the groove a little bit. But I think it's a lot of times it's easier for a guy who has played versus a guy who's never played.
Coach, you had a lot of disruption in the offensive line the last couple of years, really, with injuries, moving guys around, trying to plug holes where you didn't think you were going to have holes. What are your thoughts? Granted, it's only April. What are your thoughts about the offensive line heading into the next couple months?
I think it's a real key point for us. And, if you look back the last couple of years, we just haven't been able to perform quite at the level that we'd like, and that's even with a guy like Tyler Linderbaum in there playing, who's a pretty good player. But it takes five guys to function up there, and experience and maturity does really help. And if you're lucky enough to have a guy like Tristan Wirfs, who's a true freshman, is physically capable to do some things most guys can't do until they're, well, in his case, guys will never do. But usually it takes 3, 4 years to really get that kind of maturity. And so, this is the most veteran group we've had in a couple of years. I'm excited about that. I think they've practiced well. And that being said, Logan Jones and Jennings Dunker haven't practiced due to off-season surgeries. But it's the most experienced group we're going to have here now in quite some time. And I think if we're going to be good offensively, which I'm optimistic and have been optimistic, having a veteran group up front, and I'd include our tight ends too, Luke Lachey and Adi Ostranga, and Zach's come along a little bit there too. So, those guys up front, that's where our experience is, that group and the running backs. And those are the guys that really have to, play like veterans. And like I said, hopefully we'll get Cade back. Deacon's played, and we're young on the perimeter. So that's going to be the big challenge.
Well, we've gone 5 minutes and didn't even bring up the defense, and for good reason. Just kind of let Phil do his thing over there. But the fact that 5, 6, 7, 8 decided to come back or were coming back anyway, that must make you or help you sleep at night.
Yeah, it really does. And, those guys have played good football and winning football for us. And probably the number one concern would be, you can't let complacency creep in. But, knowing the group the way I do, I mean, you talk about the 2 inside backers, Jay and Nick. You think about our safeties with Sebastian and Quinn back there. I mean, these are guys that are really driven and they're really prideful. And I can say the same thing about, I guess, all 11 guys or all however many you want to go to. So they've done some great things defensively. It doesn't assure us that it's going to happen again. But, the big thing is that, we've got the capability, we've got experience on that side of the ball. It should be a strength, and it's going to need to be for us to be a good football team. We're built that way, and guys have had a good spring. Really pleased with what I've seen thus far, and a couple guys out there too, some key guys that will make us better when they get back. So no reason to think that we won't have a chance to be a good defense.
Quick comment on the new punter.
Yeah, very impressed with him. He's we didn't have that luxury with Torrey, as I remember. I thought he showed up in the summertime. Well, that was during the pandemic and all that crazy stuff. So nobody was here in the spring. What am I thinking about? But anyway, for a young guy and a first-year guy, I've been very, very impressed with him. He seems to be really mature. And first things first, he adjusted to college life really well. It was a little bumpy there for him for a while, figuring everything out. But he's doing really well in the classroom. He's got a nice air about him, and he's been out there practicing and playing. And I would say, I don't want to say distance-wise, but I'm just talking about just in general. I think his feel for punting is probably a little better at this stage. Torrey really developed into a great punter, and I think Reese is showing some of those tendencies. So it's really he hasn't played yet in a game, but really giving us a good feeling of optimism when we watch him practice.
We're heading into some new territory with no more East, no more West, no division play. It's all a big mixing pot with, in addition to 4 new schools coming in. I don't know if you had time or even want to give that a lot of thought with spring ball now occupying most of your calendar, but your initial thoughts here in late April.
Yeah, it's kind of entertaining or interesting. I guess it's new. To your first point, I mean, you can't talk about college athletics anymore without talking about portal or NIL. It's just it's become part of the landscape, and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I do know the way we're structured right now, or more accurately, the way we're not structured, because there is no structure. That's an issue. You can't expect anything to be sustained, I don't think, if we don't come up with some type of guidelines and framework, and that's going to lead to some issues. I don't know how quickly that can happen, but the sooner the better. Just so everybody knows what the ground rules are. That's all. And then, as far as the expansion, that's one more sign of a different era. Take geography and take, tradition, all that stuff, throw it out the window. It really doesn't matter anymore. And the way I'm kind of looking at it, no divisions and all this and that. But the bottom line is you still play 12 games, just like we did 10 years ago. And it's really about how well can you handle those 12 games. And then I'll let some smart people tell me what the hell we do after that. But the biggest thing is how many wins can we get out of those 12? How well can we put a team together and push forward? So that part hasn't changed. And, when we went to, 4 teams, there was a lot of rhetoric and a lot of, this team, that team. And, prior to that was 2 teams. And, somebody was always had something to complain about. But one thing that hasn't changed in 25 years, if you win enough, usually good things happen. And if you don't, it's not much fun. So, our focus is just going to be on trying to win football games, and we'll let the powers that be figure out how we're going to all, shake things out at the end.
For now, it's finished the semester strong academically, recharge the batteries, and report back in a few weeks for strength and conditioning drills before a summer break. Ferentz, with 208 career wins, 4th most all-time among active coaches, has 122 Big Ten victories. That's 3rd most all-time, trailing only Woody Hayes of Ohio State and Michigan's Bo Schembechler. Congratulations to former Hawkeye wrestling great Spencer Lee, who recently captured the Olympic team trials at 57 kilograms. Lee defeated another former Hawk, Thomas Gilman, in the first match via decision at 6-3, then pinned Gilman in 5:58 of the deciding match. Lee, with 2 opening round buys, outscored 4 opponents by a combined score of 27-9. Spencer Lee now heads to the World Olympic Games qualifier in Istanbul, Turkey on May 11th and 12th. That's it for this week's Fight for Iowa. Thanks for tuning in. This is Gary Dolphin. Go Hawks.
You've been listening to the Fight for Iowa podcast. Hawkeye fans, remember to hit the subscribe button on your favorite podcast app. Once you become a Fight for Iowa podcast subscriber, you'll automatically receive the latest episodes of the Fight for Iowa podcast, the Hawkeye Women Rise podcast, Hawk Talk replays, exclusive game content, and more. Until next time, on Iowa and go Hawks! The preceding has been a Learfield presentation on the Hawkeye Sports Network.